I'm Stuart. I'm a lecturer here at RMIT in architecture, and I teach in architectural design and history and construction technology. And I also run a radio show here in Melbourne called The Architects, which runs on community radio 3RRR, and also write for Architecture Review Australia, one of Australia's architectural magazines. And I run an architectural practice. I'm an architect, and a lot of the staff at RMIT are like that. We work both here in the academy and out in practice as well. So I'm actually a part-time lecturer here at the moment. And I guess one of the things that we try and do is bring together knowledge that's accumulated in both of those fields and work with them, and both for the benefit of students and people coming through the program. It also enriches practice life as well. So I guess one of the roles that I have in sort of being half in the media in a way, the architectural media, is about bringing architecture, or I guess educating people about architecture in a slightly wider field outside of just the school itself. So in terms of the general public, and done that really through radio and through writing, in particularly in architectural magazines. And I guess one of the reasons that we set up the radio show was we saw that architecture was actually kind of being talked about a lot in the media in terms of renovation shows, but it wasn't really called that, and it wasn't really about that. So the built environment actually gets talked about a fair bit. On the surface of it, this would seem like a hard thing to do, to talk about architecture when you can't see it. But surprisingly, we've been doing it for 4 years now, and we won a couple of awards, both through the Institute of Architects, the Bates Smart Media Award we won a few years ago, and in fact we won a Community Radio Award for innovation in outside broadcasting. I guess the key thing, other thing we did this year in terms of the radio show, was we went to Venice, to the Venice Architecture Biennale, which runs every 2 years. A bit like the Venice Art Biennale, but it's architecture, and it runs in the other year. And so I guess in Venice this year, what we attempted to do was go to basically the world's capital of architecture, which is what Venice is, for a few months, and see an amazing collection of architecture and international architects, including Australian architects, exhibiting there. Venice itself is a really interesting phenomenon. It's a real coming together of architects around the world. It's kind of like a sort of gold Logies or Oscars of architecture. There are prizes given out. Frank Gehry got a Lifetime Achievement Award this year. The Australian Pavilion was exhibited as it was last time, but hasn't been solidly in the 20-year history of the Venice Biennale at all, the Architecture Biennale. And Australia's actually now got a commitment to exhibit in the Venice Architecture Biennale, both in 2008, right now, and again in 2010. And so that was an incredibly important thing for a lot of Australian architects. It was a creative team led by Wendy Lewin and Kirsten Thompson, and Conrad Heyman, who teaches here at RMIT, was on the team, and Ian DeGrucci, who also does, Neil Durbach and Vince Frost from Sydney, were part of a team that put together a big show called Abundance at the Australian Pavilion, which was really about, I guess, the abundance of ideas in Australian architecture, and was a collection of over 300 models produced by Australian practices, by about 200 Australian practices. So it really was a great opportunity in Venice this year. And I guess really we'll see what happens in 2010, but I think this year was a really strong one.